Okay, Inside Out 2 has been the talk of the town this past week, because it really is a thinking piece. It's actually pretty mature for what it is, for the most part. I saw the movie a second time, I ended up liking it more the second time, and honestly, it gets better the more I think about it. So I'm gonna do a spoiler talk for this movie. That is a spoiler warning. If you still haven't seen Inside Out 2 and you're planning on it, then I'd recommend you don't watch this video because I will be talking about what happens in this movie in detail. If you have seen it or you don't care, well, first of all, why don't you care? I mean, if it were Deadpool or something, then yeah, I'd understand maybe, but this is Inside Out. It's for everybody. You should care. But anyway, if you have seen the movie or you don't care somehow, then yeah, stick around. Alright, that is your spoiler warning. Let's talk about Inside Out 2. So starting off in this movie, we learn about this whole new system in Riley's mind that was not in the first movie, which is her belief system, which is formed from memories. And yeah, this is what I said in my review where I was like, these are new rules that were not in the first one. Because really, this belief system replaces core memories from the first movie. Core memories are never mentioned this time around. I spent 9 years knowing the whole core memory thing, so this did take me some adjusting, some getting used to. But again, it does make sense. You know, as you get older, your brain expands, rules change. So fine. So really the main premise concerning Riley is that she's transitioning from middle school to high school, and she's going to this 3-day hockey camp, which I guess will determine whether she makes this high school hockey team in the high school she's going to, the Firehawks. But she learns that her best friends, Bree and Grace, are gonna go to a different high school, which, yeah, that sucks. And so when Riley gets to this high school where this camp is, and she meets Val Ortiz, who does go to this high school, Riley's like, oh, okay, new friends. So the real battle here is between her old friends Bree and Grace, who are going to another high school, and these new friends who are the cool kids who go to this high school. And that is where the new emotions come in. Anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui. And so it really ends up being kind of a battle between the old emotions and the new ones. Joy and the old emotions, they want to stick around with Bree and Grace, while anxiety and the new emotions want Riley to go with these new kids and Val. Which I will say, I gotta give props to how nice Val is to Riley. Like, Val's friends are trying to freak Riley out, and Val's always like, guys, stop. I told you not to freak her out. I love that. Talk about a good person right there. Which does kind of mean that Riley is freaking out over nothing. Like when Val thinks that Riley's from Michigan, I do feel like Riley could have corrected her and been like, actually I'm from Minnesota, and Val would have been like, oh, alright, I'm sorry. Yeah, she wouldn't have been like, oh, you're correcting me? How dare you? Nah, that's not right. And given how nice Val is in the movie, I don't think she would have done that. I'm just saying, but that is anxiety for you, especially in the mind of a 13-year-old. That's how they would act. We've all been there. But eventually anxiety and the new emotions take over the console. Joy and the old crew are bottled up, and they're sent down to this vault where all of Riley's secrets are kept. And really, this is where we get to the scene in the movie that I did not like. In fact, every time I think about it, I hate it a little more. Yeah, I am not a huge fan of the next few minutes here. We meet this 2D preschool character who's from an old preschool TV show, who's voiced by Ron Funches, and I usually love Ron Funches, but his character is just annoying here. And he's like, here's a secret, Riley still likes the show. I was like, nah, I outgrew preschool shows when I got into kindergarten or first grade, hence why I couldn't relate to this, and this guy just annoyed me the more and more he was on screen. Him and his little pouch guy, and that video game character, Lance Slashblade, who was kind of funny, but this whole scene where they break out with the dynamite, and then Lance does his rolling move, causing that chain reaction, the whole time I'm watching it, I was like, this is stupid. It is actually the scene I hate in this movie. Like seriously, every time I watch this movie, I'm gonna skip this scene. I can promise you that, every time. I don't get it. It's like they got the writers of the Garfield movie or something to come in for one scene. Granted, alright, if you laughed at this scene, if you like it, that is fine, alright? Power to you, love what you love, I'm just telling you where I'm coming from. Meanwhile, Anxiety and her crew of new emotions are up at the console, taking over the movie. Seriously, Anxiety, voiced by Maya Hawke, I didn't give her enough credit, honestly. This is her movie. And I mean, it totally makes sense why she was cast, right? Have you watched Stranger Things 4? You think back to that scene in Stranger Things 4 where she's like, I should stop talking, but words just keep pouring out, and I'm doing it right now, aren't I?
Yeah, you are.
I watched that clip recently and I was like, and that is why she was cast as Anxiety. Yeah, pretty genius casting, so props to Maya Hawke in this movie. She was fantastic. So then for the next chunk of the movie, we have Joy, anger, fear, and disgust going on this journey. They send Sadness back up to headquarters so she can recall them. Meanwhile, Joy and the others go through a whole bunch of puns. Some of which I thought were alright. Others I was like, oh, really? Like the sarcasm, yeah, I get it. Usually I love puns, but I think what it is the fact that they showed that clip in every single trailer ever for this movie. So it got kind of tired by the time I actually saw it. The stream of consciousness thing was okay as long as it doesn't remind you that Shark Boy and Lava Girl did it first. Yeah, when I saw that in this movie for the first time, I was like, I've seen that before in another movie. Granted, that is a movie that I would rather forget. I don't even know why I remember that, but somehow I do. But I do love the scene in Imagination Land where they go into that pillow fort place and we see that Anxiety is working all these people, telling them to send up scenarios of things that could go wrong while at this camp. Joy and the crew get in and they start sending up positive scenarios. My favorite part of the scene comes up up right here, where Anxiety's like, who's sending up all this positive? And then she gets this look. And then we see her on the screen. She's like, Joy, I know you're in there. Right there, the way she delivered that line, I was like, ooh. Oh, that was kind of scary. Like the way her face covers up that whole screen. I don't know. I just really like the delivery of that line. I know that's really specific for me to talk about, but I thought it was worth mentioning. It's just that feeling of, oh crap, we've been made. That was just really good. But they do start a revolution in there, which I did think was pretty funny. So Joy does overcome Anxiety that night. However, the victory is short-lived because pretty soon after that, Anxiety does completely take over. This is where we get into the real hard-hitting scenes. Because we've seen throughout the course of this that Anxiety has taken all these orange, anxious memories down to the belief system and only anxious memories. So they are forming this new sense of self, which I actually forgot to talk about. Oops. The belief system forms this sense of self, which is like the core memory of this movie. You know, Riley's sense of being, what her existence is all about, I guess. Originally it was, I'm a good person, but Anxiety got rid of that and now she's replaced it with a completely anxious one of, I'm not good enough. Which right there, that's when I perked up. I was like, oh my god. That is genius because that is exactly what anxiety is. That is anxiety in one simple sentence. I'm not good enough. Everyone has thought that at least once in their lives about themselves. Just that is something that really hits deep. In fact, there are quite a few lines in this movie where I was like, that really cut deep. Like Joy's big line where they're all trapped in the back of the mind and she says, maybe this is what happens when you grow up. You feel less joy. I was like, oh, that is real. That's one of the saddest and probably one of the most realistic lines I've ever heard in a Pixar movie. Because nothing is more true than that. It's sad, but it's true. And so that is what's happening. Riley's playing in this hockey game. She's got that anxious sense of self doing that line in her head, I'm not good enough, all the while she's playing this game. Oh man, if that doesn't drive you, I don't know what will. She's doing her best in this hockey game. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. She ends up hurting one of her old friends out of this drive, and she's penalized for it. She's sent to the penalty box. And this is where we get to the best scene in the movie, if you ask me. This is the scene that everyone's talking about. Of course, it's the anxiety attack. Oh my god. This is brilliant. Anxiety is going nuts on the console. She starts moving left to right really, really fast. I was like, geez. Riley starts hyperventilating and grabbing her chest. The shot where she grabs her chest, I was like, oh, this is real. And anxiety goes faster and faster until we see this cyclone, this hurricane, tornado thing going around the console. I was like, wow, that is real. That is brilliant. It's genius. It's an anxiety attack, a panic attack. And Joy and the crew get back up to headquarters. Joy gets in there and she sees that anxiety is seemingly frozen in place, but she's not. She's moving at 100,000 miles an hour. That is horrifying. Because again, that is what an anxiety attack is. You're frozen in one place, but your mind is just racing at 100,000 miles an hour. It's scary. I just gotta give all sorts of props to the team that came up with this idea over the course of many sessions, I imagine. How do we depict an anxiety attack from the point of view of these emotions? And this, I gotta say, is perfect. This is absolutely how it would look. And is resolved when Joy says to Anxiety, you don't get to choose who Riley is. Anxiety lets go of the console, and they come up with this new sense of self that is ever-changing. It spouts out different phrases. I'm kind. I'm not good enough. I'm mean. I'm a good friend. And all the emotions gather around and they hug it, and that calms Riley down from her panic attack. I was like, oh, that is so good. Again, it's just genius in showing that all of Riley's emotions are there for her. Every single emotion has their place in caring for this person. That's the one thing that every emotion has in common, is that they're all about taking care of you. And nothing hammers that point home more than all the emotions hugging this new sense of self that's ever changing. I just thought that was great. And so now we come to the epilogue. We see that all 9 emotions are now manning the console, which yeah, I was like, that does kind of retcon the first movie because we've seen adults' minds in the first movie and none of the other emotions were in there. But now in the epilogue, we do see that the adults do have their own anxiety that kind of comes and goes, I guess. Alright, that's fair enough. I'll give them that. They wrote their way around it. Props. And in Riley's mind, we see that anxiety is... she's not confined. That's how I saw it at first, though. I was like, oh, great. So we just imprison anxiety to this chair. That's how we're dealing with it. But then my friend who I saw this with was like, that's not how it is. It's Riley learning to manage anxiety. I was like, yeah, that makes more sense. Because at the end of the day, anxiety never goes away. We just have to learn how to manage it. That's pretty smart. They got her this massage chair and anxiety. That was funny. And so Riley is now in high school with her new friends, but she still gets texts from her old friends. And I'll just break down reality right here. Realistically, she is not gonna see those old friends for much longer anymore. The more Riley hangs out with Val and the Firehawks, the more that Bree and Grace will become eventually a distant memory. That's just the way it is, especially at that age. Yeah, hate to break it to you, Ryle, but you're not going to be seeing much of Bree and Grace anymore. If a third movie is going to be realistic, Bree and Grace probably won't even be in it. I'm just saying. But it's okay because you got your new friends now. Such is life. So, in conclusion, Inside Out 2, like I said, I can't say I love it, and it's really because of that vault scene, which I really do hate, but I still really like this movie overall. I love Maya Hawke as Anxiety to death. Like, I gotta say, she's probably one of my favorite characters I've seen in a movie this year. Possibly one of my favorite cinematic antagonists of all time. I just thought she was so brilliantly written. Really, it's that whole anxiety attack scene, man, I'm telling you, just genius. I love that scene for sure. One of the best scenes I've seen in a movie this year. Just, yeah, this movie did a fantastic job at exploring the mind of a kid entering puberty and experiencing anxiety. Because again, we've all been there, and this movie just did a really good job at visualizing it. And yeah, there's gonna be a third one. Are you kidding me? New highest grossing opening weekend for an animated film? Yeah, it's gonna happen. So that'll be one of my questions for you. What do you think they should do for Inside Out 3? And also, what are your thoughts on Maya Hawke as Anxiety specifically and the anxiety attack scene? These questions I want to know your answers to, so whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!